At one of the world's most elite universities, where only the sharpest intellects earn a spot, an unexpected visitor claimed the final seat in the lecture hall. Keanu Reeves, unassuming with his notebook in hand, sat quietly. The professor, a titan in theoretical physics, singled him out, assuming he was just another celebrity intruder. But Keanu's calm demeanor hid depths far beyond fame, knowledge honed sharper than any theorem. What happened next didn't just challenge an equation. It upended an entire worldview. And hey, before we dive in, drop in the comments. What's your all-time favorite Keanu Reeves movie? Is it The Matrix, John Wick, or something else? Let me know below. Welcome to the von Heisenberg Institute, a name that echoes like legend in the halls of science. Nestled high in the Swiss Alps, this isn't your average university. It's a fortress of innovation, funded by the ultra-wealthy, where physics transcends textbooks and becomes a sacred pursuit. Admission here means you're either a prodigy or backed by serious cash pretending to be one. Glass walls reflect the snow-capped peaks, security is airtight, and ambition pulses through every corridor. The Institute's history is steeped in mystery. Founded decades ago by a reclusive billionaire who believed physics held the key to unlocking human potential, it has produced more Nobel laureates per capita than any other institution. Whispers in academic circles speak of secret labs buried deep in the mountains, where experiments blur the line between science and philosophy. Students don't just learn here. They live physics, breathing equations like oxygen, debating theories over midnight coffees in echoey lounges overlooking glacial valleys. It was the dawn of a new term, crisp autumn air seeping through the hermetically sealed windows. The auditorium sparkled with sterile perfection. Rows of desks aligned like soldiers, each equipped with holographic projectors for real-time simulations. Filled with the planet's top young minds from Ivy Leagues, Oxbridge, and hidden gems like Tsinghua or the Indian Institutes of Technology, the room buzzed subtly with intellectual energy. These weren't ordinary students. They were the future. PhD candidates who had already published papers, interns at CERN, winners of international Olympiads. The air hummed with determination, mixed with the faint scent of fresh brewed espresso from the automated dispensers. Then the door swung open with authoritative precision, and in strode Dr. Nathaniel Halberg, genius, intimidator icon. His groundbreaking work had reshaped theoretical physics, from pioneering models in quantum entanglement to controversial theories on dark matter consciousness. Tall, with a shock of silver hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to dissect souls, Halberg carried himself like a general on a battlefield. His lectures? Brutal interrogations disguised as education, infamous for reducing even the brightest to silence. Rumors swirled that he had once driven a student to tears with a single question, only to later co-author a paper with them that revolutionized string theory. No warm welcomes, just a piercing scan of the room, his gaze lingering on each face as if assessing their worth. "Welcome to the core of modern physics," he declared, voice like a scalpel slicing through tension. "Let's see if you can endure it." Nervous smiles flickered across faces. Pens scratched furiously on digital tablets that synced notes in real time. He dove in without preamble. Qubits dancing in superposition, relativity bending spacetime, entropy unraveling order into chaos. Critiques flew like arrows, laced with biting wit that masked deeper challenges. "If you think entropy is just disorder," he sneered at one point, "you're still playing in the kindergarten of thermodynamics." The class hung on every word, hearts racing as he wove complex webs of logic. Then, midway through a dissection of Schrödinger's paradoxes, the door creaked again. No apology, no fanfare. A man entered, jeans faded from countless adventures, worn gray hoodie that spoke of quiet introspection, battered notebook under his arm like a trusted companion. He strode in confidently, his steps measured and unhurried, nodding respectfully to the front before claiming the back row's last seat. Whispers erupted like a quantum fluctuation. "Is that Keanu Reeves? The actor from those action flicks? What's he doing here? Filming a sequel?" Recognition buzzed like electricity, a mix of awe and confusion. Neo in a physics class? It felt surreal, like a glitch in the matrix of academia. Keanu ignored the stares, settling in with the poise of someone who had faced far greater spotlights. He opened his notebook, a relic, pages frayed from years of use, filled with handwritten scribbles that hinted at late-night revelations. No laptop, no gadgets, just paper and pencil, a throwback in this high-tech sanctuary. From the doorway, an administrator in a crisp black suit stepped in briefly, her voice cutting through the murmurs. This is Mr. Reeves. He's been approved as an observer for the term. Carry on." She vanished as quickly as she appeared, leaving stunned silence in her wake. Observer status? Unheard of for outsiders, especially Hollywood stars. The Institute's bylaws were ironclad. No tourists, no dilettantes. How had this slipped through? Halberg didn't acknowledge it outwardly, resuming his lecture with feigned nonchalance. But the vibe shifted palpably. Students tensed, their focus splintering like fractured light. Equations filled the board. Tensor fields twisting in multidimensional space, time dilation stretching moments into eternities, entropy decay whispering of cosmic inevitability. This, Halberg tapped emphatically with his laser pointer, is where dilettantes exit. Wave function collapse, you've heard of it, but do you grasp it? The moment observation forces probability into reality. A pregnant pause hung heavy. People think they know quantum physics from watching films, pop culture simplifications that dilute the truth. The jab hung unsubtle in the air. Awkward laughs rippled through the rows. Eyes darted to Keanu, who remained impassive, his pencil gliding smoothly across the page. Halberg pressed onward, his voice gaining edge. If the observer influences the outcome, what does that imply for objective reality? Is the universe a stage, or are we the playwrights? Crickets echoed in the vast hall. Pens fidgeted nervously. A throat cleared, but no one volunteered. Fine, onward. Energy, mass, space-time curvature. This is raw physics, not entertainment for the masses. More glances Keanu's way, subtle as shadows. Here, you're a scientist or a spectator. Choose wisely. Tension thickened like fog rolling in from the Alps, every breath measured. Mid-equation, as he sketched a particularly thorny integral, Halberg pivoted with a sly grin that didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps our guest cares to chime in. Mr. Reeves, define a tensor for the class. The room inhaled collectively, a collective gasp suspended in time. Keanu met his gaze steadily, no flicker of surprise or intimidation. A tensor is a mathematical entity generalizing scalars, vectors, and matrices, he replied, voice soft yet resonant, like a gentle wave carrying profound depth. It describes multilinear relations in geometric data and transforms consistently under coordinate shifts. Precise, unadorned, flawless, delivered without a hint of bravado. The auditorium iced over, shock rippling like a pebble in a pond. Halberg's smile tightened, a crack in his armored facade. Impressive. Action movies must be upping their game with research departments these days. Scattered chuckles broke the tension, but most students gaped in disbelief. Keanu resumed note-taking, unfazed, his focus returning to the page as if the exchange were mundane. Halberg glanced at the notebook briefly. Something flashed in his eyes, unease masked as curiosity, like spotting an anomaly in a perfect dataset. He continued, but seeds of doubt were sown. Keanu wasn't here for show. He carried insights the Institute wasn't prepared for, secrets etched in that worn leather-bound tome. As the lecture wrapped, students filed out in hushed clusters, debating the intrusion. "Did he really just nail that?" one murmured. "Tensors aren't beginner stuff." Outside, the alpine wind howled, but inside minds whirled faster. Keanu lingered a moment, jotting final thoughts, before slipping away unnoticed, or so he thought. In the faculty lounge later, Halberg sipped black coffee, staring at the valley below. "Observer," he muttered to himself. "We'll see about that." The following day, the hall buzzed with electricity, rumors having snowballed overnight like an avalanche. Whispers in the dorms, texts flying between rooms. Keanu's perfect response, his mysterious presence. Was it a stunt for a new film? A documentary on celebrity intellects? Or something deeper, like a social experiment funded by eccentric donors? No one knew, but his knowledge was undeniable. Tensors required real study, not IMDb credits. Keanu returned to his spot, same outfit, same composure, as if the previous day's drama were a forgotten equation. Students stole glances, some with curiosity, others with budding respect. Halberg entered, sensing the unspoken challenge like a grandmaster eyeing an opponent across the chessboard. His stride was brisker, his expression a mask of control. "Collisions," he scrawled boldly across the digital board, the word projecting in holographic red. "Not mere crashes, energy transfers with profound implications that redefine our understanding of the cosmos." The board erupted in a symphony of symbols, Lorentz transformations warping frames of reference, entropic gradients climbing like vines through probability trees. He paced, voice rising. Now, relativistic impacts at near-light speeds. No Newtonian playground here. This is the void where classical intuition shatters. He posed a riddle wrapped in science. What occurs to entropy if one observer accelerates relative to the collision point? Does disorder bend with perception? Silence reigned, thick and oppressive. No takers dared raise a hand. Halberg's smirk emerged, sharp as a blade. Disappointing. Perhaps our resident expert can illuminate. Mr. Reeves. Laughter tinged with nerves bubbled up, some wincing at the escalation. Keanu responded evenly, his tone a calm anchor in the storm. It hinges on the reference frame. In non-inertial ones, especially near gravitational horizons, perceived entropy shifts. Unruh radiation adds thermal noise, suggesting an apparent increase, though the system remains closed and invariant. A hush fell, deeper than before. Halberg blinked once, masking surprise with feigned approval. Well done. Save some for the class next time. We wouldn't want to spoil the mystery. Keanu noted quietly, his pencil dancing. But his mastery irked Halberg, a thorn in the side of his ego. Equations accelerated, layered densely with deliberate complexity. Obscure notations from fringe theories, skipped derivations that left even top students scrambling. Then, with theatrical flair, let's test if Mr. Reeves's Hollywood physics withstands scrutiny. Tomorrow, the von Heisenberg Gauntlet, a problem no textbook holds, born from the Institute's deepest archives. Eyebrows rose like arches in a quantum bridge. We'll see if charm suffices against fighting math. Intuition is no match for rigor. No laughs echoed this time. The gauntlet was thrown. Keanu was ensnared in a web of intellectual combat. As class dismissed, murmurs grew. Is Halberg threatened? Keanu's no amateur. Outside, snow flurries began, mirroring the whirlwind within. Anticipation built like a storm the next day, corridors alive with speculation that rivaled particle accelerators. Students huddled in cafes, debating over steaming mugs. Would Keanu appear? Attempt the impossible? It's Keanu Reeves, he's faced worse in movies. One joked, but nerves betrayed the humor. The hall choked with tension, air thick as if charged with static electricity. The blackboard loomed, a chaotic tapestry of symbols blending general relativity's curves with quantum field theory's fluctuations, laced with higher dimensional topology that twisted logic into knots. Unholy, unrecognizable even to elites who had devoured advanced texts. Below, in mocking chalk, dare to try? Or observe from afar? Halberg stood sentinel, arms folded like a gatekeeper to forbidden knowledge. His eyes scanned the room, settling on the back row with calculated indifference. Keanu entered quietly, his presence cutting through the buzz like a laser. He approached the front unbidden, students parting like waves. He studied the board like a maestro a symphony, eyes tracing each symbol with quiet intensity. A faint smile played on his lips, not triumph, but recognition, as if greeting an old friend. Chalk in hand, he began at the edge, his movements deliberate. This function lives, he murmured, voice carrying to every corner. But you've constrained it, treating it as static, a corpse on the dissection table. Frowns emerged among the audience, confusion mingling with intrigue. The issue isn't the math, it's beautiful, a masterpiece of abstraction, he continued, chalk tapping lightly. It's the boundaries, twisted into pretzels of assumption. He erased two terms with surgical precision, rewrote them in elegant script. You've swapped observer and source, birthing a paradox from misalignment. Entropy doesn't fold internally, it's relational, a dance between perspectives. Circling a dense segment. Here's the false conflict, linear causality assumed in an entangled universe. No contradiction, just classical cling, an unwillingness to embrace the quantum weave. Breathless quiet enveloped the room, time itself seeming to dilate. Keanu stepped back, chalk set down with finality. Whispers broke the spell. That works. The paradox dissolves. He solved it, effortlessly. Halberg scrutinized for minutes, arms crossed, jaw rigid as granite. No rebuttal came, his silence spoke volumes. Keanu returned to his seat amid the awe. This was no act, a breakthrough, a revelation that cracked open minds like geodes revealing crystals within. The hall cleared in whispers, a reverent hush lingering. Students loitered, eyeing the board and Keanu with newfound respect. He noted serenely, oblivious or indifferent to the stares. Approaches began tentatively. Anna, a scholarship prodigy from Eastern Europe, her badge glinting under fluorescent lights, ventured near. Slender with intense green eyes and a ponytail that spoke of practicality, Anna had fled political turmoil to chase stars, literally specializing in astrophysics. That entropy observer bit. I've wrestled with it for months, but today it finally clicked like a lock turning. Keanu looked up, smiling gently, his eyes warm as a hearth. It's not your fault. Most teach it like it's static, a ruler measuring fixed points. But time isn't a line, it's a rhythm, pulsing with the universe's heartbeat. He offered her the chalk, a simple gesture loaded with invitation. Rephrase it not as a solution, but as a melody. Let the equations sing. Anna hesitated, then took it, sketching tentatively on a nearby pad. More gathered, a lanky German named Lucas, obsessed with black holes. A quiet Japanese prodigy, May, who dreamed of unifying forces. Questions flowed like a river. How do you visualize tensors? What's the intuition behind Unruh radiation? Keanu engaged humbly, equals in curiosity, sharing analogies drawn from nature. Waves on a pond, leaves in wind, to demystify the arcane. No lectures, just conversations that sparked epiphanies. In his dim office later, Halberg pored over a high-res snapshot of the board, projected on multiple screens. The solution wasn't just correct, it was elegant, minimalist, precise, almost intuitive, making his original problem seem clumsy, a rough draft next to a masterpiece. No fluke this. Fingers flying over his keyboard, he delved into records. Keanu Reeves, no academic credentials, no publications, just a sprawling filmography from blockbusters to indies. But something nagged. He pivoted to deeper waters. Obscure online forums for theoretical physicists, back channels where ideas flowed unfiltered, pseudonymous manuscripts challenging orthodoxies. Searching by notation style, unique chalk strokes, operator flourishes. After half an hour of frantic queries, he found it, an unpublished paper circulating in encrypted threads. No author listed, just a cryptic title, The Language of Light. Radical yet simple, it reframed light not as particles or waves, but as a linguistic code of the cosmos. Poetic rigor that married quantum mechanics with philosophical inquiry without sacrificing mathematical spine. Halberg zoomed in, margin notes, formatting, equations, handwriting, identical to Keanu's scrawls. His breath caught, the room spinning slightly. He whispered, quiet as if the truth might overhear. Who the hell are you? And how have you hidden this? That night, as stars pierced the alpine sky like diamond drills, Halberg couldn't sleep. He paced his quarters, a minimalist suite with views of eternal snow. The institute slept, but his mind raced, collisions of ego and intellect. Down the hall, in student dorms, conversations bloomed. Anna shared Keanu's metaphor with roommates. Lucas sketched diagrams inspired by the exchange. The seed of change had taken root. Lectures persisted in the days that followed, the institute's facade unchanged, lights blinking with precision, labs humming with experiments. But beneath, fractures appeared. Halberg accelerated his pace, obfuscating deliberately with labyrinthine explanations. If you can't follow this derivation, he snapped during one session on quantum foam, that's not my problem. Physics won't wait for laggards, and neither will I. Students struggled, notebooks filling with half-formed ideas, frustration mounting like pressure in a fault line. Only one remained still amid the chaos. Keanu, back row sentinel, his pencil a steady metronome. Sometimes he'd raise a hand, not to challenge but to clarify, his interventions like beacons in fog. Actually, he interjected once during a tangled discussion on operators, that isn't wrong, it's just missing a dimensional frame. It's still orthogonal to the collapse, if you rotate the perspective. Halberg didn't respond verbally. He just erased the board silently, his back turned, shoulders tense. The room knew what was happening, a subtle war of wills, but no one dared name it except in private. Anna, emboldened, started approaching Keanu post-class in the sunlit atrium, questions evolving into discussions. Your view on entanglement, it's like souls connected across voids, she said one afternoon. Keanu chuckled softly. Or perhaps voids are illusions and connection is the default. Eventually, others followed, clusters forming in quiet corners. Labs after hours, benches overlooking frozen lakes. It wasn't rebellion, it was curiosity rediscovered, a renaissance of wonder stifled by Halberg's tyranny. And that, more than any equation, unsettled him. One crisp afternoon, as golden light filtered through glass panes, Halberg intercepted Keanu near the spiral stairwell leading to the observatories. No audience, no students, just two men in the quiet echo of concrete walls, footsteps reverberating like distant thunder. You're not a student, Halberg stated flatly, blocking the path. Keanu nodded once, unflinching. You're not a researcher, not faculty, not part of any institute I've cross-referenced. His voice edged with accusation. So why are you here, truly? Fame. A lark. Keanu looked at him, not defiantly but honestly, eyes reflecting depths unexplored. Because physics saved my life once, he replied softly. In dark times, it offered light, patterns in chaos, meaning in void. And now I want to help others understand it, not fear it. To see that the universe doesn't need to shout to be heard. It whispers if you listen. Halberg frowned, words hanging unspoken. He said nothing more, turning abruptly and walking away, his footsteps fading into the hum of the building. But as he passed through the corridor, he glimpsed them. A small cluster of students huddled around Keanu's notebook on a stone bench in the courtyard. No cameras, no spotlights, just presence, animated gestures, laughter mingling with aha moments. Far above, behind tinted glass in the director's eyrie, someone else observed the scene unfold on discrete monitors. The director, Elias von Heisenberg himself, a descendant of the founder, reclusive visionary with a mane of white hair and a penchant for Zen gardens, leaned back in his ergonomic chair. Time I met Mr. Reeves, he murmured to his empty office, fingers drumming a thoughtful rhythm. The director's summit office was a realm apart. Top floor, minimalist and glass-paneled, feeling more like a meditation chamber than a command post. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed panoramic Alps, a bonsai tree on the desk symbolizing balanced forces. Keanu entered with his usual quiet stride, notebook in hand, as if stepping into a friend's study rather than an interrogation. Von Heisenberg rose, extending a hand, warm, firm. You're not here for a degree, he said without preamble, gesturing to a seat. And you've avoided the press like a shadow. Refused interview offers, speaking gigs. So I ask again, why here of all places? Keanu smiled faintly, settling in. Because this institute shapes the people who will shape the future. And I wanted to see if anyone still remembers why we do this. Not for prizes or power, but for the sheer joy of unraveling mysteries. Physics isn't a weapon, it's a bridge. There was no arrogance in his voice, just purpose honed by experience. The director leaned forward, steepling his fingers, eyes gleaming with intrigue. Those anonymous works circulating in the shadows, the language of light, the tensor paradox essay, the entropy collapse model. Yours. Keanu didn't confirm or deny outright. Instead, he opened his notebook, flipped through pages filled with diagrams that blended art and science. Sketches of fractals morphing into galaxies, equations flowing like poetry, and placed it gently on the desk. There, in familiar handwriting, was an unpublished theory, a unified framework linking quantum observation to cosmic consciousness, elegant and years ahead, grounded in rigorous math yet accessible as a story. The director scanned it, breath slowing, awe-etching his features. This could change everything, he whispered. Not just physics, philosophy, ethics. Keanu nodded modestly. Change starts with sharing, not hoarding. Meanwhile, Halberg brooded in his lab, planning a counterstroke amid humming servers and glowing screens. He announced it the next day like unveiling a scientific jewel, his voice booming. Next lecture, a live resolution attempt of a boundary problem between string theory and quantum gravity. Bring your notebooks and your humility. The challenge was obvious, a gauntlet refined for Keanu. But instead of resistance, Keanu raised his hand mid-lecture. Can I explain it in a way even someone who hates physics might understand? Halberg blinked, caught off guard. String theory to the averse? By all means, entertain us. That lecture transcended academia. It felt like a miracle unfolding. Keanu took the board, but not with dense equations. Instead, shapes, diagrams, stories that breathed life into abstraction. He described strings not as cold vibrations in a void, but as ripples of potential, woven into the fabric of being like threads in a cosmic tapestry. Pulling out a simple 3D visualization, magnets suspended in a field, leaves fluttering to demonstrate invisible forces, he illustrated. This is how gravity whispers across dimensions. Not by force, but by invitation, pulling us into harmony. The room didn't clap, it awoke. Murmurs of connection rippled. I see it now, the multiverse as a symphony. Eyes welled with realization. Anna wiped a tear, her notebook forgotten. Halberg tried to interject, reclaim the momentum with technical jargon, but he couldn't compete. He was holding a ruler in a world that had just discovered resonance. His marker slipped from his fingers, clattering to the floor, a small sound but symbolic. Somewhere in the back, a senior faculty member, grizzled and jaded from decades of grants and papers, whispered to a colleague, "I think we've been teaching this wrong for decades. It's not about memorizing, it's about feeling the pulse." Word spread like wildfire through the Institute's networks, emails, group chats, even scrawled notes on communal boards. Students from other departments snuck in, drawn by the buzz. The final session arrived unannounced, no Halberg presiding, no title slide flickering on screens. Just students gathered early, notebooks out, eyes forward with anticipation rather than dread. Keanu walked in quietly as always, but this time he didn't claim the back. He strode to the front where chalk waited patiently. The students didn't applaud. They leaned in, a collective inhale of expectation. Anna stood beside him, her notebook in hand, not his, but hers, pages brimming with fresh ideas. She turned to the class, voice steady despite the butterflies. "We've been working on a model. It's not finished, not peer-reviewed, but it's something real." Keanu smiled encouragingly and stepped back, letting her lead the charge. She described a dynamic field theory inspired by Keanu's metaphors, blending classical mechanics with intuitive pattern recognition. A way to visualize system relationships not as fixed graphs, but as breathing geometries that evolved like living organisms. Diagrams bloomed on the board. Spirals representing feedback loops, colors denoting energy flows. She didn't sound like a student anymore. She embodied a scientist, confident and visionary. The class followed every word, questions interjecting organically. How does this apply to black hole information paradox? Could it model neural networks? Keanu added only when needed. No corrections, no spotlight steals, just subtle guidance like a mentor nurturing flames. Across campus, the director watched via a silent stream in his office, joined by a handful of faculty members once skeptical, now stunned into silence. In those 45 minutes, something cracked open. Not a theory, but a culture. Physics, for the first time in a long time, wasn't being taught from on high. It was being shared, co-created in a symphony of minds. Halberg arrived late, slipping into the doorway like a ghost. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt, just watched from the shadows, his face a mask of conflicting emotions. Resentment, curiosity, perhaps even envy. The students weren't looking to him anymore. They were engaged, alive, experimenting together in real-time debates that filled the air with electric energy. As the session wound down, Keanu closed his notebook with a soft snap. He didn't ask for applause or accolades. He simply looked at Anna and said, "You're ready." She frowned, tilting her head. "Ready for what?" He handed her the notebook, its weight symbolic. "To teach in a way no one ever taught us. Lead with wonder, not authority." Anna clutched it like a sacred artifact, fingers tracing the worn cover. But when she opened it later alone in her dorm, under the soft glow of a desk lamp with the Alps silent outside, she found just one line on the final page, inscribed in Keanu's flowing script. "Physics is just another way to say, I was here." Tears blurred her vision, not from sadness, but from profound connection. The next day, Keanu was gone. No press release, no farewell address, no final lecture. Just an empty chair in the back row, a void that echoed louder than words. In his wake, the Institute transformed. A new program was drafted swiftly, an experimental track built around a simple principle: imagination plus precision. Anna would lead the first session, guiding peers not just to solve equations, but to feel them, question them, redefine them in collaborative workshops that blended art, philosophy, and hard science. Halberg, humbled or perhaps enlightened, requested a sabbatical. "To recalibrate," he said vaguely. The director, inspired, opened anonymous submission channels for radical ideas, echoing Keanu's hidden contributions. And somewhere far away from the Alps, perhaps a quiet cabin in the Canadian Rockies, or a bustling cafe in Tokyo, Keanu Reeves sat quietly, maybe writing again in a fresh notebook, maybe just listening to the world's subtle symphonies. But always watching for the places where silence could teach louder than authority, where one observer could collapse waves of change. As the screen fades on this tale, remember, this wasn't about proving genius. It was about reminding us that the universe was never meant to be understood alone. It's a shared journey, full of surprises, where even a stranger in the back row can rewrite the rules.